All right, welcome into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick, joined by 98.5 The Sports Hub's Alex Barth. And this show tonight is presented by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh makes it super easy to cook up quick and easy at-home meals with the freshest ingredients available. So make sure to go to hellofresh.com/CLNS65 and use that code CLNS65 for 65% off your order plus free shipping. Again, that's CLNS65 on the code. You'll get 65% off plus free shipping. So go to hellofresh.com/CLNS65 to go check that out. We're going to do a full Q&A episode today. So as we get this thing started, you can pop all your questions in the chat and we will get to as many as possible. But while you guys ask said questions, some Patriots news came down today as the team released 3 players just 3 days after the Super Bowl. They cut cornerback Tay Hayes, special team Christian Wilkerson,
Yep.
and why am I blanking on the third one?
Quentin Nordin, kicker Quentin Nordin.
Oh, I was thinking specialist. I was thinking Riley Webb because I was talking about wide receivers earlier. So yeah, kicker Quentin Nordin, wide receiver Christian Wilkerson, and cornerback Tay Hayes. Some relevant, others not so much, I guess. Christian Wilkerson, for example, is the guy who I look at here, who was a training camp darling the last 2 seasons. He got knocked out with a concussion on what many call the cheap shot against the Panthers during Panthers week, but he had some promise. Nordin, you wonder what he could have been if Nick Folk wasn't so nails at the age of 35 or whatever he is. So yeah, what do you make of the releases?
I'm a little surprised they moved on from Wilkerson. Not even as a wide receiver thing. I don't think he was the answer, that guy that's going to unlock Mac Jones, but I thought he was a pretty good special teamer and a guy who could give them some depth at wide out. He was under contract for, I think, like $800,000. It was very minimal. Now, maybe there was a conversation that like, hey, I want to go somewhere. I don't feel like I'm going to have a chance to win a spot here. I want to have the opportunity to go sign with the team in training camp where I can win a spot, something like that. So who knows why he got released? That one surprised me a little bit. Is who he always was in college. I mean, he's got incredibly powerful, highly erratic. It's kind of like quarterbacks. When we talk about, that guy can throw the ball 70 yards in the air, there's a lot of people that can do that. But can you do it with any ounce of control? For 90% of the people that can throw the ball that far, they can't control it. And Nordin's kind of the kicker equivalent of that. Tay Hayes, they could bring him in a camp. They could not. That one was kind of whatever. The thing I'll say with Nordin and Wilkerson is, so they were set to be ERFAs. The Patriots still could technically bring them back. If they simply didn't want to deal with the tender process, they could release them and bring them back. So it's not for sure that they're gone, but you can't really get somebody cheaper that is an ERFA. So I think the two of them are probably that their time's done in New England. I expect Wilkerson, wherever he ends up, to compete for a roster spot. I really do. I don't think we've seen the last of him in the NFL. The other two, I don't know, but Wilkerson did surprise me a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said earlier, he had 2 really solid camps, and then an injury kind of derailed him this year. But if he kept playing this preseason, and their last receiver ended up being Lil Jordan Humphrey on the roster, I feel like Christian Wilkerson could have filled that role just as well. I know they used him in a little different way than they might have used Wilkerson, as far as that that tight end type wide receiver with he was inline blocking and things like that. But yeah, he was impressive. So I agree with you that his time in the NFL is not done. He'll be able to latch on somewhere. So that's what happened in Patriots World today. We will now get to your questions. We will answer as many as possible in the chat. So fire away. We will start with.
We can start with this one. This is a good one.
All right.
Would the Patriots be better off trading for Jerry Jeudy or T. Higgins?
I say Higgins. I think Higgins is a bit younger. I think he has a much higher ceiling, and although he'll cost more, I think his cost is worth it. I think that type of wide receiver in this system for Mac Jones going into year 3 is incredibly important, and Higgins has shown that he is a wide receiver 1 stuck behind another wide receiver 1, where Jeudy has been up and down. He has a ceiling, but I think Higgins' ceiling is so much higher. So I would rather Higgins in New England than Judy.
I think it's Judy. First off,
Okay.
Judy actually is younger by
Oh,
about
he
6
is.
months.
Okay.
Jerry
Oh,
Judy is
interesting.
younger. T.
Okay.
Higgins is 24 right now. Jerry Judy's still 23. He turns 24 in April. So he's sorry, I said 6 months. He is 9 months younger
All right.
than T. Higgins. Jerry Judy is. I do think I do think T. Higgins is ultimately a better player.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about probably multiple first round picks to get that thing done. And at that point, I don't think it's worth it because I love next year's wide receiver class and I'm not ready to give up the first round pick then. They also might need a quarterback. I'm not ready to give up the first round pick next year if you need the quarterback.
That's fair.
You mentioned the system. Jerry Judy's a better fit in Bill O'Brien's system. It all originates from the slot position. T. Higgins is a pure boundary receiver. After Moss left in 2010, they basically didn't use that position. You look at the 2011 season when they were one of the best offense in the history of football. Can you even tell me who their boundary receiver was that year?
In 2010?
11.
11. Oh, boy.
They did. So Moss left in 10.
Gaffney?
Was it who?
It's Jabbar Gaffney.
That was he was like their secondary boundary receiver in 07. No, it was Deion Branch and Chad Ochocinco.
Oh yeah, Ochocinco, that's right.
And they still got by. So I think you got a talent target in the slot, and Jerry Judy is the guy in that regard. So I think Higgins is probably, if we're doing Madden ratings, a better player, but in the specific Patriots system, Jerry Judy I think is a better fit. He's going to cost less, and he's younger. So I go Judy all day on that one.
All right. I think building off that is a Judy trade off the books since Denver hired Peyton. I think that might has a chance to maybe escalate it even more because they had to trade a first round pick to get Sean Payton in the building. They might want to get something back, and Jerry Judy would be a trade target. Ian Rappaport from NFL Network also reported that Judy was a target at last year's trade deadline. So, the GM's the same there in George Patton, so they'll probably field the same type of calls, and they might want to get some stuff back now that they just had to cough something up for Sean Payton. So I don't think the Payton deal. I think that would actually escalate it more so than it would take it off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I also just think Peyton's going to want to build his own thing, right? Jerry Judy, You're nearing the end of that contract.
Mm-hmm.
And unless Peyton knows for sure he's the guy he wants to pay, you look at essentially what the Vikings did, right? When they traded Stephon Diggs and drafted Justin Jefferson,
mm-hmm.
They extended the length of having a rookie contract at that position. I think Peyton maybe doesn't want to have to pay that big money receiver in 2 years when he might be looking for a quarterback, right? So
mm-hmm.
I think the impact is negligible, but if I have to lean one way, I actually think hiring Sean Payton makes him more available. And some of it too is like you said as well with they need picks. They need picks to build that thing. They don't have money. They don't have cap space. They need draft picks, however they can get them.
Yeah, I agree. I want to bring up one more before if you have something.
No, go for it.
Going back to the wide receiver position. I saw this on Twitter a few times today when I was talking about wide receivers. And it's Paris Campbell from the Colts. He could maybe fit that slot position need for a little bit lower of a price. Was he a first round pick or a second round pick?
I want to say he's a first round pick. He's one of those Ohio State guys. He was like at the beginning of the Brian Hartline tenure.
Right. So I don't hate it.
Second round pick. Sorry.
Second round. Okay. He hasn't been super in Indy, but he hasn't really had too much of a chance. They brought in Michael Pittman as well, and I think Campbell's gotten hurt a few times. So I guess it depends on the price. I don't hate the idea, but I don't know. What do you think about Paris Campbell?
Look, he had 1,000 yards last year in that offense. Yeah, wait, I just had it here. It was nope, sorry, that's his college numbers. Numbers. Never mind. Yeah, I was gonna say I would remember that. He was on IR most of last year.
Okay.
I personally actually do really like Paris Campbell. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're going into that second tier that Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, like we've had this conversation before, right? I want the guy that comes in and is instantly, unquestionably number one on the depth chart. And Paris Campbell's like right there with Kendrick Bourne to me. So I think he's a good player. He doesn't add anything. So
I
I'm out on him.
Yeah.
I mean, the person asking the question is the right idea. Quickness, you need the slot receiver, all that. Just they can do better. Let's go to this one. Would we rather Patriots sign Mike McGlinchey in free agency and then select a corner or wide receiver in the first round, or sign Dean or Bradbury, then select an offensive tackle in the first round? I would rather they sign McGlinchey and then draft a tackle in the first round. They need two. They need two tackles. They don't have. You can call Trent Brown what you want. I think he's going to get cut. They save too much money if they don't cut him. Or sorry, they save too much money to not cut him.
Yeah.
You need starting tackles, period, end of story. Like, they have serviceable NFL corners, and they can upgrade there. And the good news is I think you can get an upgrade at that position in the second or third round of the draft this year. The wide receiver thing, to me, it's boom or bust with the veteran. I've said that. It's boom or bust. They need tackles. Sign one, draft one. That's where I'm at with that.
I like the first idea here because I like sign McGlinchey, and I love the idea of the corner. I love Joey Porter. I love Christian Gonzalez. I love Devin Witherspoon. And I feel like that 46 pick, you can still get a high-quality tackle.
But you're not going to get like a plug-and-play guy. This is what they've been doing.
Yes, but
what you're suggesting is what they've been doing at wide receiver for years.
Yeah, I suppose. But I just think that those corners can be plug-and-play guys, where I don't know if those second-round guys would end. Like the 46 guys would be corners. I know they don't necessarily need it as much as tackle, but, I mean, I don't know. Do we...
The corner, that's the thing. How much is the corner you're drafting in the first round going to play? And not how much would you play him, how much are they going to play him? They're going to put him in a rotation with Jack Jones and Jalen Mills, and he's probably going to have a 45% usage rate. How much is your left tackle playing? 100% of the time, right. Ideally.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
Unless they're going to trade Jalen Mills, I don't see it.
I also, it's going to depend on what they do with John Jones, and that's going to happen before the draft.
Right.
So that's going to be sort of the ripple effect there, which is why it's fun to do our mock drafts and everything now and talk about everything, but the beginning of free agency obviously comes before the draft, and so that's where we're going to get more of our tells as to what this team does.
Right. Do you want to go here? We can talk about the second round pick from last year. Where are we at with Tyquan Thornton right now? How do we think Bill O'Brien will impact his development?
So after they cut Wilkerson today, I tweeted out who the Patriots have under contract in 2023 for receivers, and it's Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton, Trey Nixon, and Raleigh Webb. They need to upgrade the position regardless. I think that Bill O'Brien and what they bring in here, as far as a new offensive system where it's going to be calculated, I think that's going to help Tyquan in the long run. So I still feel like he's going to positively impact his development, but they can't rely on that. They still have to fix the room. They still have to go get that other guy. They need a true number one. So I like Tyquan. I like what he showed in bits last year. He had potential in camp, but that doesn't mean they say, oh, well, we have Tyquan Thornton, so don't worry about the wide receiver room. They still need to do much more in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them give Tyquan a shot. You didn't draft the guy 50th overall to be a rotational wide receiver.
Right.
You drafted him to play 75, 80% of the time. Mm-hmm. In O'Brien's offense, there's not a huge role for that guy traditionally. Now, maybe that's an adjustment he makes when he comes here, or maybe Tyquan got in the gym this summer and we see him in the slot a little bit. If they're going to maximize him in this offense, it's putting him in the slot.
Well, look at Will Fuller. Look at what Will Fuller did.
He's a different player though.
I guess, but he's fast. He's a straight line guy, takes the top off the defense, and he's either going to go for 180 in a game or 25 yards. That's kind of what I can see him with Bill O'Brien.
He's much bigger though. He's
Fuller?
Much bigger, yeah.
Yeah, I know. As far as
Will Fuller, I think was 210, 215, right?
Yeah, I mean Tyquan just needs to put on weight anyway. But
right, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I hope they don't quit on him. I hope that's not a case where it was just, he was picked for Matt Patricia's offense and he's not in it anymore, so we're just going to move on.
Patricia's offense.
Right. I hope they still give him a chance because I think there is some upside there. I hope they try to justify that 50th pick, but it's tough to say.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the offensive line real quick. Do we think they double dip at offensive tackle in the draft? Broderick Jones and DeJuan Jones or Darnell Wright? I could totally see them going back-to-back tackles. I could totally see it. And I don't know that they're going to be able to double up with DeJuan Jones. I think that is trading back into the first round. I think it's trading back pretty high into the first round, relative to where they are. Right there at 14, I could see DeJuan Jones going right around 20. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty extreme trade. Now, Darnell Wright, I think, is maybe more in place at 46, and I like him. I don't think he's as dominant as DeJuan Jones, but I think he's a starting NFL right tackle. I could totally see it, and I'd be happy if they did it. Now, they have to make some other moves in free agency. They'd have to sign a decent corner, even like James Bradbury. They'd have to go out and trade for a guy like Jerry Jeudy or sign one of these guys we think might get cut, right? Keenan Allen.
Yep.
But I am all for them double dipping a tackle. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not what everybody wants. I know it's what the fantasy football players don't want. But if they come away with 2 starting tackles from this draft and they actually get Mac Jones some freaking protection, that would be a good draft.
That would be massive. I agree. I said in the last one, my last answer, but it really does all hinge on what they do in free agency. Because if they do sign John Jones and they do end up trading for that number 1 wide receiver, then you're more likely to see tackle because you fill your other needs. So, yeah, I'm with it. I do think I agree that Broderick and DeJuan Jones are going to end up in the first round. You're more likely to get Darnell Wright at 46 and maybe have to trade up a little bit or whatever. You see how the board falls. But I don't hate the idea so long as they fill the other needs in free agency.
Yeah. Another quick draft one here. Do we agree that Brandon Cooks is a good comp for Zay Flowers? I see why.
I see it.
But Cooks is much better vertically than Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, to me, is more of a horizontal wide receiver. Yeah. I hate doing this comp, obviously, because of what the guy is off the field. But from a football point of view,
say it.
The ceiling is Antonio Brown.
Yep,
like and I know Antonio Brown had some deep elements as well. But the reason Antonio Brown was so successful getting open deep is he was so lethal underneath that teams had no choice but to press him, and then he would just beat press with his speed. It's the short game leading to the deep game. That's where Zay Flowers' depth is going to come from, and it's going to be yards after the catch and things like that. So I don't think it's Brandon Cooks. I'm trying to think of who I'm thinking of. Honestly, if we're going to go to like that, I'm having trouble. Like, it's not Kadarius Toney because he's not that big.
No.
Right? But it's that same thing where it's speed and
I like to do
after the catch and route running. Yeah. The ceiling's Antonio Brown.
I have my floor for him as like a Corey Coleman. But I mean, that's not fair because why are we going to already put him on Corey Coleman's level? Which I understand the comp and the types of receiver they play, but I mean, I don't want to sit here and call him Corey Coleman just yet, but a guy like that.
Look, his size is going to be an issue. It is. Yeah. There's no way around that. And teams he's going to have to beat press. Even if he's playing in the slot, teams might start pressing him. It's a tricky evaluation, but you know what? There's a lot of guys. It doesn't disqualify him. Like, I'm a big Tank Dell guy, right? If you want to do ceiling floor, the ceiling for Tank Dell to me is Tyreek Hill with how explosive he is. But he's 5'8", 163. The floor is Jalen Darden.
Right.
That's what happens with these guys. Players at that size are outliers. You see the skill set and you get all excited about it. But then you remember Antonio Brown was like 190. I think Tyreek Hill's 200. Like, he's built.
Yeah, he's thick, yeah.
You don't see these 170, 175 guys catch on. And if they do, well, then you look at the skill set and you say, okay, he'll be that. But it's so difficult to project guys at that size. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to do because there's not a ton of context to do it. And there's not a ton of favorable context to do it. There's a ton of, like you said, Corey Coleman's out there, but
exactly
those like 170-pound slot receivers, they generally don't catch on.
Yeah. So building off of that, are you bringing Brandon Cooks to New England?
What does it cost? I would be interested. I think Brandon Cooks is a guy that if they do acquire him, instantly becomes the number 1 as soon as he arrives. I think Brandon Cooks is a wildly underrated player that
I agree.
Has been put in a lot of bad spots throughout. Basically, he got signed to a contract that was way more than he was worth. And the only way teams could justify having him on their team was being in the last year of a championship window. Mm-hmm. And basically that contract just kept getting passed around aging contenders, and it put him in a bad spot.
Right.
Now he missed his prime. You're kind of ready to hit the reset button though. What he has is it 6,000 yard
I think so.
Is it 6,000 yard seasons with 6 different teams, something like that? He's the only player to ever do that. He's got 1, 2, 3. He's got 4,000 yard seasons with 3 teams. I'm not giving up a first round pick for him like last time. I think we're probably past that at this point. He's gonna turn. Sorry, what was that?
No, 4,000 yard, 1,000 yard seasons with 4 different teams.
Yeah,
New Orleans, New England, the Rams, and Houston. I thought you said 3.
He's had 1,000 yards in all but 3 of his all but 3 of his whatever it is. 8. Is it 9 seasons already? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Holy crap. Yeah.
He's 30 now. I'm not giving up the first round pick for him that I did, but they've got all those 4th round picks. If it's like a 4th, couple 4ths, yeah. If it's a 3rd, maybe with a pick swap, all right. Honestly, what was the Devontae Parker trade last year? It was Parker and a 5th for a 3rd. I think it was Parker and a 5th for a 3rd. Yeah, I would do that, and I think that's actually pretty comparable in terms of what you're getting. I would do that. I would absolutely do that. Again, not giving up the first, but yeah, there's if we can make it work with day 2 picks, I would take Brandon Cooks back. Yes.
I agree. I think he worked with O'Brien. No, he did not. Yeah, 2020 he was with O'Brien. And so there's familiarity there. So I don't hate it.
Well, he also was here sort of right after O'Brien left. So there were still probably some. Oh no, he wasn't. Never mind. I had my years mixed up. Yeah,
there was some time, but
yeah. Do you want to do this one? I know you were excited about this one. There's been a lot of wide receiver talk so far, but thoughts on rumors of Patriots sniffing around a trade for Deebo Samuel? Those rumors coming from Jimmy Stewart, the producer of Felger and Maz on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
I mean, if they're willing to deal him, then the Patriots should absolutely throw their hat in the ring. You talk about a guy who can play the slot, who can play outside, who can play running back, who can do everything with the football. Someone who the Patriots love for versatile players. He's been dominant through the first 3 years of his career in San Francisco with a quality offensive coordinator in Kyle Shanahan. You now bring in a quality Bill O'Brien. I think that, again, if they actually want to trade him, the Patriots would be silly not to put their hat in the ring. Will it happen? I don't know. Should they make a move? Absolutely. You have to, whenever those guys are available, we've talked about it all the time. Buffalo with Diggs and Miami with Hill and the Eagles with A.J. Brown, right? You go get those guys for your young quarterbacks. I think Deebo would be great for them.
If Deebo Samuel gets traded, it's going to be the Chicago Bears. Because if the Niners trade him, it's because they're sniffing around the draft capital to move up and take a quarterback. Again. Yeah. Oh, no. They totally – I'm not saying that's right. They've totally butchered this.
Yeah.
Sniffing around can mean so many things. It's due diligence. I will tell you this. Talking about floor ceiling, I actually see a very comparable player to Deebo in this draft who you do not need to use I don't think will need to use a first-round pick to get. Kayshon Boutte should be there at 46.
Yeah.
I love the idea of taking him at 46 because the reason he's going 46 is not a football reason. And look, we don't know exactly what happened there at the end at LSU, but from the rumors that are out there, and I'll let people Google them because I'm not going to say anything that's not substantiated, but didn't break any laws. Might have, broken some, campus rules, team guidelines, but
right.
I don't know, man. That he was the consensus number 1 wide receiver in this class for a long time. He was. And he had to play on some LSU teams that just weren't good. And I think that hindered him. And I think he became disengaged this year. And I know that gives some people some red flags, but you don't get to poo-poo this pick if you were one of the people who wanted George Pickens last year. Because I'll tell you this, Pickens' red flags were way worse, much more significant. So if you're somebody who's been saying the Patriots need to just take the guy and stop worrying about the off the field and just take the talented guy, Kayshon Boutte to me is a top 15 talent that you can get at 46. And in terms of his play style, very similar to Deebo Samuel. He is, I think he's like 6. We don't have his official measurements yet. He hasn't checked in at the combine, or I'll have to check in at the combine, but it's listed at 6 foot, 210, 215. So let's call it 5'11, 205, 210. Really good speed for his size. He's like, the thing about Deebo people don't realize is, fun as he looks kind of jitterbugging around the field, he's a power runner. He'll run through you. He'll in the words of Landon Roberts, he'll run through an MFer's face, right? Kayshon Boutte kind of has that thing going on. Excellent route runner. Dog with the football. Like, dude doesn't quit. I love it. I love the idea of taking Kayshon Boutte at 46. And if it's that versus giving up like 2 first-round picks for Deebo Samuel, I'll take Kayshon Boutte at 46.
I just worry about the Patriots and their development of wide receivers. And I know Bill O'Brien can very well change that, but if you can go get the proven guy, I think you got to do it. And I don't think it really matters what the cost is. I mean, of course it matters, but it ends up being worth it in the long run.
So I don't want to say Deebo's a system player, but Deebo's not going to have the same impact in Bill O'Brien's system that he had in San Francisco.
That's a good point.
And look, you know me, I'm a big like, hey, they can't develop wide receivers, don't take one guy. But if they're going to do it, if they're going to take a wide receiver high, which is kind of trending more and more looking like they're going to, Boutte's the guy. I don't care about the character, because you're right, they can't develop him. Go out and get the guy with the most raw talent in this class. I think JSN's number 1, but he's not fast. They need speed. I think that Addison's number 2, but I don't think they're going to get Addison. I think he's going to go in the top 10. Yeah. And I wouldn't take him at 14. Kayshon Boutte at 46 is such a sweet spot pick. Such a sweet spot pick for them if they can make it. And they'll be able to mold him into their offense versus Deebo having to change systems. Deebo might give you more right away. Like, he will give you more right away, but you're going to have a guy who has the potential to be a top 10, top 5 receiver in the league on a rookie contract in a role that is going to be the most heavily used in your offense. No brainer to me.
Yeah. All right. I agree. We have a ton to get to, but before we finish, I do want to talk, or not finish, just like I got plenty of time here, but before we continue, I want to talk about LinkedIn and LinkedIn jobs. When you're looking for that new candidate at a job, Alex, and you just can't find the right fit, well, LinkedIn jobs can change that for you and your small business. LinkedIn jobs allows you to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available, making sure that you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Here at CLNS Media, we use LinkedIn jobs to help us find the right talent for all our social media, content, and sales needs. That's how you got me and Alex Barth on the Patriots Beat podcast. What better way? LinkedIn makes it incredibly easy to post your job on their job board. Then you can add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to help spread the word to your network that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. We're now into February, so it's time to bring in that perfect candidate to your team, and LinkedIn Jobs can help you do just that. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/beat. That's linkedin.com/beat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, I'm going to pull this one up right here because this is an interesting point, something that hasn't been talked about a lot.
Okay.
According to Over the Cap, trading Tristan Wirfs pre-June 1, the Bucs would clear up $2.8 million but leave $2.3 in dead money. Is that something the Patriots should consider? I don't know that the Bucs are going to be super eager to move Wirfs. In the grand scheme of things, $2.8 million is not enough for them to open with that kind of dead money where their cap is. But let me pull up the exact numbers here. Their other tackle, Donovan Smith, who's their right tackle, is absolutely a cut candidate. They save $9 million if they cut him right now. If he's a post-June 1st cut, that goes up to $15 million. And the dead money is the same. It's about $2 million. Donovan Smith is I'd be very interested in. Yeah, we've talked about Mike McGlinchey. We've talked about Caleb McGarry. We've talked about Juwan Taylor. But Donovan Smith, to me, is up there with those guys. He's 29, so he's not super old. I wouldn't trade for him because I don't necessarily want that contract. Actually, let me see how much money moves over if he gets traded. Yeah, actually, $9 million for a starting right tackle isn't bad. 15 moves over if it's after June 1. So I think your cord's loose again, Mike, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. It's better. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't trade for Donovan Smith, but if they cut him, he's right there with that top right tackle group that we've been talking about. I think that's a guy to keep an eye on.
I agree. I think, I talk about it all the time. Wide receiver, corner, tackle. Those three are the top three needs. You got to make all three happen this offseason. But I don't really care what way you do it, whether it's free agency, whether it's trade, whether it's the draft. You just have to touch on all three at some point somewhere. So, yeah, if Tristan Wirfs or Donovan Smith are available, you got to go make that happen. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I know it costs more, but I'd still rather that proven guy that's been in the league and done it before rather than a rookie.
Okay, let me ask you this, though, because you say you don't care as long as they touch on all three.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need the same caliber player at all three spots, though.
I suppose, but I still think that, yeah.
They need a tackle much more than they need a corner and wide receiver. And I would even say at corner and wide receiver, we're talking about a certain kind of position, a certain kind of player.
Their wide receiver room is thin, Alex. Like, they really, really still need that number one to make a difference.
They do, but they also really need a slot guy if Jacoby leaves, right? So
Fair.
but I think you needing two starting tackles. Like when we talk about corner being one of their biggest needs,
Trent Brown could be here. Trent Brown could be here.
All right, even with that, needing a starting left tackle versus needing depth size at corner are two different things. You don't address depth size at corner before you address your starting left tackle. They do need to address depth size at corner. They can't let that go unchecked. But I have trouble saying that, yeah, they can handle that the same way they can handle the tackle thing. The tackle thing is a much bigger need.
Yeah, which I guess that I would rather touch on tackle with the proven guy rather than double dip in the draft.
Okay.
I would rather go get your tackle, trade for him, sign him.
The problem is they need a left tackle, and that proven left tackle probably isn't available.
It's probably draft and not. Yeah, that's fair. Unless you trade for him.
Unless something happens with Orlando Brown.
Right.
Like I don't see the Bucs trading Tristan Wirfs. It doesn't open enough money to make it worth their time. And we talked about this yesterday too. The Bucs might try to to reload and go for it, which I don't think either one of us was super into them doing. But to me, those are the three big needs we talk about. But it's not, to me, it's not like tackle, wide receiver, corner. It's tackle, wide receiver, corner. Like even within that, there's tiers. And I've said it. I did this on the show with Evan. If we're really going to list our biggest needs, we'll go 5 to 1. It's linebacker, size at corner, slot receiver, tackle. I have tackle at 1 and 2 personally. So
speaking of corner, then this came up, and going back to the Felger and Maz route here. Greg Bedard brought this up on Felger and Maz yesterday, and he likes the idea of the Patriots potentially going to get Jalen Ramsey as a cap casualty. Question is, trade for Jalen or question/comment, would you trade for Jalen Ramsey considering the Rams salary cap purgatory? I want to hear your thoughts, but I mean, I don't hate it. Like, it depends on how much money he costs, I guess, but he's still going to add something to your cornerback room. He's still a top 5-ish corner in the league. So,
I don't know, Mike. Did you watch him last year? He was not good. I don't think he was a top 5 corner in football last year. I don't think he was. You go back to the Super Bowl against the Bengals. He was not good in that game.
He's very hit or miss, I guess. He'll either be locked down or he'll get burnt a bunch of times and then start throwing a fit. So it goes back and forth with me, but I just think if you're gonna, if he's an option, I don't see why you don't kick the tires on it.
Because so here's what I'd say.
Okay.
First off, he's going to be 29 next year. He's signed for 3 more years. He signed through 2025. Corners fall off at 30. There were only, I think it was 14 corners in the league last year that started 10 or more games at the age of 30. And some of those guys were not good. The drop off at 30 years old is probably more significant at corner than it is at any other position. So let's say he falls off year early at 29. Mm-hmm. You're now on the hook one way or the other for $11.5 million next year. And then $4 million the year after that in dead money. You can't get that off the books no matter what. I'd wait for the Rams to cut him. I'm not trading for him. I'm not taking on that contract. Maybe if they want to give me a first round pick and we want to do it, and they don't have a first round pick. Never mind. Nope. I was going to say we want to do it NBA style. That wasn't a bid. I legitimately forgot they don't have a first round pick. Yeah,
F them picks, Alex.
He hasn't been good. He just hasn't been good. I don't see it.
All right, back to the draft. I just had it, and it was definitely a topic for discussion yesterday on Quentin Johnson. Thoughts on Quentin Johnson, TCU wide receiver? I believe Phil Perry had him at the top of his mock draft. I want to say someone else had him out there in the NFL draft guy as well, but
a couple people.
What do you think about him at
Daniel Jeremiah, one of the NFL.com guys?
Yeah, that might be right. TCU wide receiver Quentin Johnson, big guy. I have a ceiling for him as T. Higgins, which is a good ceiling in my opinion. He's been outstanding. He reminds me of that. It depends. I sound like a broken record, and it's a little bit of a cop out, I suppose. But you got to wait to see what happens in free agency first. But I like Quentin Johnson. But again, it's that not a jump ball guy. He's not N'Keal Harry. I mean, maybe that's his floor, but it might not necessarily help you with the system you want to bring in with O'Brien. But what do you think?
They haven't been able to make it work with this guy. Even when O'Brien was here and they drafted guys like this, I don't want to say he's N'Keal Harry, but it's that same thing where he's pretty much exclusively vertical in an offense that does very little vertically. Yeah. The slants, the under routes, the drags, the in cuts, like he can't break on those. He doesn't have that in his bag. And that's a big part of what they're going to want him to do. So I like the player. I think he could succeed elsewhere. If they're going to take a receiver that high, take JSN or Addison. Take Addison, honestly, over the two of those guys. But he traditionally hasn't. That guy traditionally has not succeeded here. This is too important of an offseason for them to take that risk. Like a guy like Boutte, a guy like Addison, a guy like Flowers. Yes, they haven't succeeded on drafting high wide receivers, but guys of that prototype have had success here.
Right.
I just don't think that the Johnson guy has, and to somebody in the comments, I won't pull it up because you pulled up the next question. Somebody said, stop calling every big receiver N'Keal Harry. Johnson will run like a 4.3 40. I'll tell you this, if Quentin Johnston runs a 4.3 40, he's gone well before 14.
He's going to be a top 5 pick.
4.3 40, he's going to be a top 5 pick. So if he runs the time that you want him to run to completely remove the N'Keal Harry comparison, he's not going to be available. And I'll say this too. Chad Jackson could run. Chad Jackson was fast.
Right.
So we can go to that one too. So like, can he sneak in like a 4.48, like 4.47, 4.48, maybe? It doesn't do it for me. It doesn't get me excited. And if he runs in the 4.3s, he's a top 10, if not top 5 pick.
Right. I brought up Addison because I saw it earlier and you mentioned him.
Yeah.
I'm on this. The comment says, seems like a top guy last year in the transfer portal, but now seemingly dropping to the second round. I don't think he's going to drop to the second round.
No.
I think he'll be available at 14, but he's not going to make it out of the top 20. He's probably one of the 3 best receivers with JSN and Zay Flowers in the class. He's a great route runner. I think he would actually fit pretty well here. I don't hate the idea. But it depends on what they do at other positions. But
it's size thing with him.
You're going to have to take him at 14. Yeah, he's only 6 feet.
He's
probably going to measure a little under that. Sorry.
And he struggles against press. He struggles against physical corners. He really does. And that's always a red flag, especially for a guy coming out of a conference like the Pac-12. He's going to last as far as low as the Steelers are willing to trade up. That's my prediction for him. Steelers are going to want to reunite him and Kenny Pickett, and whether that's moving up to 10, whether it's moving up to 13. Some people have talked about could the Patriots move back a little bit and still get their tackle. Steelers are 17, 14 to 17 might not be a bad move for the Patriots, depending on how things shake out. Addison's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to be a lottery pick, a guy who goes in a non-playoff draft spot. I think you've just seen him fall off because that's sort of what happens this time of year. Zay Flowers went to the Shrine Bowl, did a great job, and now he's getting all the pub because that's where the narrative was. And Addison was doing, like, he was working out on his own. He wasn't at any of these games. The Combine's going to shift this all back. And all the guys that we've been in, whether that be high draft picks, whether that be mid-round draft picks, like, I looked at like the charting, right, as to where the stock stands. Demario Douglas, who me and Evan hyped up a ton coming out of the Shrine Bowls, way up as soon as we like right after the Shrine Bowl happened.
Yeah.
Because he's who was being talked about. That'll settle down. Once we get to the combine, it all rights the ship. As much as I like to use these, board projections and everything right now, I'm using them because it's what we have. The first like real look at the projections comes after the combine, because that's when we've seen everybody or almost everybody.
Right.
And Addison is going, because I don't think JSN's going to run.
No,
I don't think Quentin Johnston's going to run the time everybody thinks he's running. Addison's going to run, and he's going to get a huge bump when he does, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I like it just because I want them to get another guy in here, another receiver, and I want one to work. Right? They've right. done these. Harry didn't work, and then Tyquan. I mean, again, Tyquan's early, but there was guys on the board that could have worked, like George Pickens and guys like that. So I want them to have that true number one guy that Matt can rely on every single down. I guess it was Jacoby, but I mean, there's people out there that are going to.
Why can't it be Kayshon Boutte?
I suppose it could. So we'll see what happens at 46. Quickly, then we'll get back. I want to tell a story, and I want to tell it because of HelloFresh. You know when you're like at work in the middle of the day, or even you eat dinner, and you're so hungry, and then you eat, and then you feel like you don't want to do anything the rest of the day? I'm having fun on this show, but I just ate some HelloFresh tacos before I came on here, and they were so good, but now I'm just like, I'm dragging. But it was delicious, and it was easy. I got home from work. I made the HelloFresh. Quick prep, easy going, in the oven, bang, and it's done, all set, ready to go. HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Now, those New Year's goals, you're still trying to hit them. You promised yourself you'd stick to them, and HelloFresh can help you do that. You can skip the extra, like I said, the trip to the grocery store. They'll come right to your door. They have 40 weekly recipes to choose from, so you can get out of your recipe rut, and you and your family can eat those exciting new flavors every single week. Customize your meals. You can swap out protein, sides, protein, veggies, whatever it is. HelloFresh lets you do it. You always find quality ingredients. It's great. It's really delicious, and it's super easy. And so go to HelloFresh.com/CLNS65 and use that code CLNS65 for 65% off plus free shipping. Again, HelloFresh.com/CLNS65. Use code CLNS65 for 65% off and free shipping. All right. What do we got? How can we close this thing out? A couple more.
Let's see. What do we got? I've seen a couple of people ask this. Will Jalen Mills switch back to safety or stay at corner? He's got to stay at corner unless they add multiple players at the position. I think he stays at corner. I was hoping he'd be a safety when they signed him.
Yeah.
I also thought J.C. Jackson was going to stay long term, so that kind of changed that projection. But I think he's still a corner. They need the size. They need the experience. It's a really young room. I just see it hard to justify a way that he moves back to safety. Maybe he plays a couple snaps here and there, but like full time, I think he's a corner.
All right, hear me out. Pick 14.
Yeah.
I know you don't want me to say Joey Porter Jr., even though he's probably my favorite player in the class at this point. Pick 14, Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Pick 46, Darnell Wright.
Yeah.
Retain Trent Brown. Trent Brown, Darnell Wright on the outside. Cornerback, you now have Christian Gonzalez, Jack Jones, Marcus Jones. Devin McCourty's gone, so you bump Jalen Mills to safety. Now you have Duggar, Jalen Mills, and that's how you kind of fill it, and you tweak things around that way.
That's a lot of taking second-tier players just to justify moving Jalen Mills to an off position. You're taking the worst tackle. I suppose. You're taking the worst tackle. You're adding a guy who's not going to play a ton, and you're keeping a guy who looked checked out last year.
But
I get why you're doing it. Like, that's how it would happen, but I don't.
Why can't Christian Gonzalez or Joey Porter Jr. be plug and play on one side right away? I know they rotate anyway at corner, but he can still be a guy who plays 85% of your snaps.
Yeah, I guess they could, because it's just never how they've done it. And maybe this year is different, but it's never how they've done it.
Fair.
I want to bring up this one because I've seen this. I know Greg had this on Felger and Maz today, his 5-point plan for the Patriots. Said draft Hendon Hooker, let him sit for 2 years, develop him. A couple things on that. First off, Hendon Hooker, it sounds like, is going to be ready for the start of the regular season or the start of camp. If that's the case, he's going to be a first-round pick. It's going to be late first, but he's going to be a first-round pick.
That's a little high, Alex.
Somebody will trade up. I think somebody would.
He's
so,
old
okay, that's
and
my
he's coming
second
off
thing.
a knee.
Develop Hendon Hooker. So Greg's plan, and maybe this isn't quite what this person meant. Greg's plan said sit Hendon Hooker for 2 years. He's going to be 29 at that point when he takes over. Like, there's no ceiling there. And I like Hendon Hooker's game. I really do.
No, he's only 25. He'd be 27, 28.
I think but doesn't he turn 26? Okay. Right, so he'd sit his age 26 season. He'd sit his age 27 season. Now,
28, 29.
You're not going to.
It's old. It's old.
You're not going to. Either way, it's too old. It's not quite Brandon Weeden, but I don't want to, because then people are just going to think Hendon Hooker sucks. I don't think he does. To me, Hendon Hooker's like, that's exactly the guy the Jets should be looking at. Because I think he is plug and play. If he's ready to start the season, I think he gives you something. I hate the idea, because I think people, and I went on this rant on my Sports Hub podcast with Matt Doloff this week. You can hear it on 985thesportshub.com. Everybody says, well, look at Jalen Hurts, because, right, that's the thing. Jalen Hurts just got here, and he was a second-round pick, and he was athletic. Well, look at Jalen Hurts. Look at Russell Wilson in his prime, right, was a later pick. I know I'm missing one, but, like, look at all these guys that go in, like, the second or third round. Just draft an athletic quarterback in the second or third round, and boom, that'll fix it. But that's a fallacy, because the guy you're describing has to be there. If there were these great athletic quarterbacks available in the second round, wouldn't teams take them every year?
Right.
You look at the way the board shakes out right now, you have, and the other thing I'd remind people, just because a player is a first-round talent does not mean they will be a first-round pick. And just because a player is a first-round pick does not mean they'll be a first-round talent. Jalen Hurts, this year, if he was in this class, would be a first-round pick. But he came out in a year that was very deep at quarterback, and it pushed him down. Most years, he's not a second-round pick. So you look at the board this year, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud going top 5, if not top 3, right? Might be 1 and 2.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson, I think, probably should be that second-round kind of risk athlete guy, but he's going to go in the first round. Fix your mic.
He's probably going to go top 10.
Yeah, your mic's cutting it out again. I would, and then you have Will Levis, who, I'll be honest, I really don't get at all. But
me either.
He's going to be a first-round pick. Then you have Hendon Hooker.
Is my mic back? Sorry.
No, it's still cutting in and out. Give it one more. One more time.
Sorry. Better.
There
worse?
You go. Better. Done. Okay. So you have those 4: Young, Stroud, Richardson and Levis are going to be first-round picks. Then you have Hendon Hooker, who is supposed to go somewhere in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, but he's 26. He's coming off that torn ACL. There's no ceiling there. He is who he's going to be. The next quarterback projected to... All right, then you have Tanner McKee from Stanford, who plays the game exactly like you think a guy named Tanner McKee from Stanford would play the game. I think... Did I see this from you? Yeah, he's Davis Mills. Not an athlete, low ceiling, high floor, serviceable backup, whatever. The next quarterback projected is Jaren Hall, who's projected to go outside the top 100. He's basically just Zach Wilson. So maybe that's your guy, but if you're taking Jaren Hall in the top 150, you've overdrafted him. So you can say you want to take Jalen Hurts all you want. That guy, the guy you're describing, go get an athlete with upside on day 2. That guy doesn't exist this year. He simply doesn't exist. So if they want to take Jaren Hall in the 6th or 7th round, whatever, go for it. Be my guest. But I just don't think that guy that everybody has this idea about, again, that Jalen Hurts, you're not going to find him. Your mic's going again, by the way.
God damn it.
I
see it in the chat. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. I'll add this one, too. I did not say Darnell Wright is the worst tackle to take. I
call him a secondary tackle.
He's the second tier. He's not in the Broderick Jones, DeJuan Jones, Paris Johnson tier. He's a tier below that. There are much worse tackles they could take. I can assure you of that. So I just
Mike better, Mike worse.
A couple people got pissed about that. Still not great.
Hi.
All right, it's quieter now. Let's just see if that works.
Okay.
All right. What else do we got?
This one's interesting to me. Syracuse tackle Matthew Bergeron could be a guy. I looked at some tape on him the other day.
Yeah.
It's. I guess he's probably a little bit worse than Darnell Wright. I
Oh
suppose.
yeah, no,
but
he's at least a tier below.
He's probably that third tier of tackle. So it would be a reach at 46. I don't know if he'll be there at what's their third pick? 85
76.
76. Okay. What do you think of Bergeron?
He struggled at the Senior Bowl. I don't think he's plug and play. I think he's a developmental guy. If they keep Trent Brown and draft DeJuan Jones, maybe you draft him to redshirt a year and then step in at left tackle next year after Trent. But
yeah,
I don't see it. I don't see it with him. Not my guy.
Okay. They're gonna let Jacoby Meyers walk, I think.
Let's rephrase
the comment
that.
is for those who are listening that Ray here will be disappointed if Bill lets Meyers walk. I hate to break it to people, but I don't see him coming back here because he's gonna break the bank. He's the best wide receiver on the market. Right. Someone's gonna pay him too much money.
He's gonna get the Christian Kirk contract or more. And I don't think they're necessarily going to let him walk. I'm sure they'll negotiate. I don't think that they're going to close that door. This might be one of those things that, we hear about this all the time where they're going to let him go out there, see what's out there. He brings back the best offer and they'll match it if they feel like they can match it. They're not going to match it. It's going to be too much. So I don't think, I wouldn't call it letting him walk. I just think they're going to get priced out of his market. And where they need to add other more explosive receivers, you need to open room on the depth chart anyway. Look, we'd all love to see him back. He's a great story. He's a super nice guy, having interacted with him. I think he's a kind of like cornerstone locker room kind of guy, but this is just a price. It's a business. It's going to be one of those ones where you walk away saying it's a business. It's a business for the Patriots. It's a business for Jacoby Meyers. I think in a perfect world, they would both like to keep Meyers in that locker room, but I don't think the way things are set up right now, it makes sense for either side.
Yeah, I would agree. I want to close it with this one unless you have any more after, but this is where
I'm not seeing too many.
Oh, okay, this is where I want to close this thing off. Do you think there will be any Patriots in the NFL top 100 this season other than Judon? Kyle Duggar. I think Kyle Duggar is going to make the top 100. Duggar was awesome this year. He had 3 interceptions. He had, I think, 2 pick six, or a pick 6, a fumble 6. He made a huge difference for this team every time he played. When he didn't play, you saw them lack in the safety room. And I think he wasn't a Pro Bowler, but I think he's earned respect from other guys in the league. You've heard a lot about just how good Kyle Duggar is and how much teams respect him. So I think he might sneak into the top 100 this year. He had a really, really, really good year.
The one other guy I think he'll probably end up on the honorable mentions just because it's voted on by the players, and I know players around the league think very highly of him, is Marcus Jones. I think he got the attention of a lot of his peers for what he did last year. Not just the return game, not just playing on offense, but even as a corner. You look at his performance against DeAndre Hopkins. You look at his performance against Devontae Adams. I don't know. It's enough. It's fringe, but if he ends up in that honorable mentions or he's in that, in the 90s somewhere, I could see it. I'm going to add one more here because it's kind of related. Okay. Odds they switch Marcus Jones to offense. Marcus Jones has repeatedly said that that's not what he wants to do. He sees he's a corner. He wants to play corner. He's open to kind of these gadget plays and he wants to return kicks, but he wants to play defense. So
and he should.
Yeah, there's no reason to tick him off and move him to the other side of the ball when he doesn't want to do it, especially when you have opportunities to add guys who can play that. I'll tell you this. If you're somebody who wants them to move Marcus Jones to offense, Tank Dell. You get all in on the Tank Dell draft train because the same guy, Tank Dell, is just Marcus Jones on offense. Yeah. So I know a lot of people really want it to happen, but I'm not saying he won't play offense. I think he'll still get those gadget plays. But Marcus Jones making a full-on switch to wide receiver, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think they should do it. So that'll do it for the other guy. I'll add to the top 100, maybe Mike Onwenu or like a David Andrews. I know Andrews has he's getting older, but those are two guys who have also earned respect across the league. And like you said, it is voted on by the players. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Again, this one is brought to you by HelloFresh.com. HelloFresh.com/CLNS65. Use the code CLNS65 for 65% off plus free shipping. We will be back next week, twice yet again. We'll probably do another Q&A, and we'll see what happens with the Patriots if any more news comes down, because we're getting into that slow grind of the offseason, but things trickle in. We saw the roster moves this week. Maybe some official coaching hires.
Yeah,
We'll
I
see
mean,
what
they still
happens.
have to make Adrian Clem official, so we're still waiting on
Exactly.
that one.
Yeah, so we'll be back again twice next week. So make sure you subscribe to Patriots Press Pass on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get those podcasts. And follow us on Twitter at RealAlexBarth and at Mike Kadlick. Read our stuff at 985thesportshub.com and clnsmedia.com. We will both have you all covered all off season, so make sure you check it out. We like to talk, but we also like to write, so check out our respective sites. Well, again, we'll be back next week. So until then, thank you guys for watching.